In this video, we're going to look at another way to factor the quadratic of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, but this time it's called the decomposition method, as you can see here. So this is a quadratic of the form ay squared minus by plus c. It's the same thing whether it's x or y, it's the same idea. Okay, so let's go through, and I'm going to show you the steps because this is very methodical, step-related type of thing. But it does come from the other video. If you did not watch the other video first, the ideas all come from there. It's just putting it together in a slightly different form. So first thing is you find two numbers. This is the first step that you want to do, such that those two numbers are the product of the first and last coefficients. So in other words, 72 times 154, it has to multiply to equal the product of these two. And those same two numbers have to equal the sum of the middle coefficient, the sum of this. So a pair of numbers that multiply to the product of this and add to equal that. Okay, now one may be positive, one may be negative, if both positive or both negative. It doesn't matter, but multiply to this, add to that. Okay, so the second thing is once you find those numbers, then you're going to rewrite the middle terms as the sum of the two numbers. So you're splitting this up, this negative 211, into two numbers. And then you common factor the first two terms and then the second two terms, and then you common factor the whole expression. Let's see what that means. Let's go and do an example. All right, so in this case, I've got the same equation up here. And the first thing we want to do before, we need to find two numbers that multiply to this, to the product of this, and add to the middle numbers. So the product of 72 and 154 is 11,088. So the pair of numbers that multiplies to that and adds to that. Now, this is not obvious. If it was small numbers, it may be obvious. You may be able to pick it up very quickly. So we have to go through and find out what those two numbers are. And so we're going to use the method shown for the ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, or for the x squared plus bx plus c. So that's in another video, and this video basically, we're going to go through it. So what you do is you basically take 211, you divide by 2, you get that number, negative 105.5, don't forget the negative. And then the second part is you square it. So we've got this number here. You take that number, you subtract it from what you need to multiply to, 11,088. So you can get that difference, and you know how far apart it is from that center, and you want to go down as well. So you go up and down from there. So you subtract it, you subtract it first. That's how much you're going to do. You take the square root of it, and you get 6.5. Once you've got the square root, now you come back to this foundation, which is 105.5 plus 6.5 and 105.5 minus 6.5. So those are the two numbers, negative 99 and negative 112. All right, so you know how to get those two numbers very quickly. It may not seem that quick, but it is fairly quickly, and it's accurate. If you don't know how to do this, again, go back to the other videos, and it shows you how to get that. So you've got the two numbers. You then rewrite the initial equation so that instead of the negative 211, this was originally 211, negative 211y, you split it into those two numbers. It doesn't matter which order you put these numbers, it still works. Okay, so you've got them split up. Now all you have to do is prime factor these two numbers. So you take the first two, prime factor that. Not prime factor, common factor that. When you common factor out the 8 and the y, because they both have a y, and 8 divides into them. You end up with 9y minus 14. And when you common factor the second two, you have a common factor of 11. And notice there's no y or anything because there's only one y here. And what you're left with when you common factor the negative 11, I common factor the negative 11, and there's a really good reason. You'll see very soon why. 99 divided by 11 is 9y, and that's 99y divided by 11 is 9y, plus 154 divided by 11, negative 11 divided by negative 11 gives you negative 14. Now, why did I say negative 11 and not positive 11? Because I want this and this to be the same. And that's very critical that you get that the same. If those do not come out the same, you know you've done something wrong, either with your factoring or your number or something. But those two should come out the same if you've got the right numbers here and if you did all your common factoring correct. Okay, so that takes you to step number 3, which says common factor the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms. So you did that. And then step 4 is saying, okay, it says common factor the whole expression. Well, if you notice, this is one term and this is the second term. So what you want to do is common factor this. That's what's common to both the terms. So you common factor 9y minus 14, and what's left with is the 8y in the first term minus 11 in the second term. And there you've got your answer. If you had switched this around, you would have had a different common factor coming out. You would have had, but you would have ended up still with a 9y here minus 14 over here, and you would have had inside here 8y minus 11. So it still comes out, it's just in a different order. You'll still get the same answer. So it doesn't matter which one comes first or second. And yeah, that's it. So I'm just going to very quickly do it this one more time, just very quickly review. You first of all have to find 2 numbers that multiply to the product of these 2. So you multiply these 2 out, and the same 2 numbers have to add to that middle term. You find those 2 numbers. You split up that middle number into those 2 numbers. Don't forget the signs also. And then you common factor the first 2 terms, common factor the second 2 terms. Then you should have this common factor for, you've developed 2 new terms here. This is common, so you take that out and you're left with what's here. And that's the second factor. That's it.